Today's topic is one that almost everyone has heard of, but almost no one can actually explain. I'm talking about AI agents. You've probably heard the term in a meeting, read it in a blog post, or seen it in a headline. Everyone's talking about them. But ask someone to define one, and the answers get fuzzy real fast. The hype is loud, the definitions are vague, and the phrase gets thrown around so loosely it's lost almost all its meaning. Here's the most common mistake people make. They think an agent is just a chatbot with a fancier name. You ask it something, it replies. That's not an agent, that's a chatbot. And there is a real difference between the two. So what changed? Why is everyone suddenly obsessed with agents? And more importantly, why should you care if you're not a developer? By the end of this episode, you'll understand what an AI agent actually is, why Microsoft built a whole framework around them, and why this matters for the way you work. What exactly is an AI agent? You already know how a chatbot works. You type something, it responds. That's a conversation. It's reactive. It waits for you to say something, then it replies. An agent is different. It doesn't just answer. It acts. Think, decide, act. That's the simplest definition I can give you. Here's how it works. First, the agent thinks. It uses a large language model to reason about what you actually need. Not just what you typed, but what you meant. If you say, book a meeting with Sarah next Tuesday, the agent doesn't just repeat that back to you. It thinks about what that request really means. Then it decides. It breaks your request into steps. Book a meeting becomes a plan. Check your calendar. Find a free slot. Check Sarah's availability. Send an invite. The agent doesn't guess. It creates a sequence of actions. Finally, it acts. It calls tools and services to make it happen. It doesn't tell you how to book a meeting. It books the meeting. It doesn't explain how to check the weather. It checks the weather and gives you the answer. So think about the difference. A chatbot is reactive. It waits for your next question. An agent is proactive. You give it a goal and it goes off and works on it. It might come back with questions if it needs more information, but it doesn't need you to hold its hand through every step. A chatbot is like a reference desk at a library. You ask where a book is and they point you to the right aisle. An agent is like a personal assistant who has keys to the building. You say, I need information about our top clients for tomorrow's meeting. And they go find it, organize it, and hand you a briefing document. You didn't tell them where to look or what format to use. They figured it out. But the secret isn't just the LLM. The language model is smart, but by itself, it's just a brain with no hands. What makes something an agent is the combination of three things. Reasoning, the ability to think through a problem. Tools, the ability to act on the world. And memory, the ability to remember what happened before. Put those three together, and you have something that doesn't just answer questions, it gets things done. Before the framework, the fragmented landscape. So if agents are so useful, why isn't everyone already building them? The short answer is that until recently, it was a messy process. You had to stitch together multiple tools yourself, kind of like trying to build a car by buying parts from different manufacturers and hoping they fit together. Microsoft's first attempt at fixing this was Semantic Kernel, an SDK for integrating AI into applications. Powerful stuff, but it was a toolbox, not a blueprint. It gave you the pieces. You still had to figure out how to assemble them. Then came AutoGen from Microsoft Research. This framework explored multi-agent conversations where AI agents talk, debate, and collaborate. Cutting edge, yes, but it was experimental, not built for production systems. So developers had a tough choice. Semantic Kernel was stable and enterprise-ready, but lacked the advanced orchestration patterns. AutoGen had the cool multi-agent capabilities, but wasn't something you'd run in a live environment. Each had its own learning curve, its own way of doing things, its own community. And it wasn't just Microsoft. Other frameworks popped up. LangChain, Crew AI, a dozen others. The ecosystem was all over the place. If you wanted to build agents at work, you had to become an expert in a rapidly changing world. Which framework do you learn? Which one will survive? Which one is Microsoft actually backing? For a beginner, it was overwhelming. Imagine you're a developer at a company exploring AI agents. You research and find 5 different frameworks, each with its own documentation, its own patterns, its own community. You don't know where to start. You don't know which one to bet your time on. That fragmentation created a real barrier. It wasn't just about learning a tool, it was about betting on an entire ecosystem. And as agent use cases moved from experiments into real business processes, Microsoft realized this wasn't sustainable. They needed one framework, one unified approach, one answer to the question, how do I build an agent? What is Microsoft Agent Framework? So Microsoft took the 2 frameworks they had, Semantic Kernel and AutoGen, and combined them into one. The result is the Microsoft Agent Framework, a single, unified SDK that brings together the enterprise stability of Semantic Kernel with the cutting-edge multi-agent patterns from AutoGen. The teams that built those 2 frameworks now work together on this one. This framework launched in preview in late 2025 and reached version 1.0 in July 2026. That timeline is important because it tells you this isn't a research project or an experiment. It's a production-ready product. Microsoft is saying build your real systems on this. It's also open source. You can find it on GitHub with over 7,000 stars and more than 100 contributors. The community is active. There are weekly office hours where you can talk to the engineering team directly. That's not something you get with a closed product. The framework supports Python and .NET as first-class languages. Whether you're a CI developer or a Python developer, you get the same experience. That's a big deal because many AI frameworks are Python only. Microsoft made a deliberate choice to treat both languages equally. And here's something that might surprise you. The framework supports over 7 different model providers: Microsoft Foundry, Azure OpenAI, Anthropic Claude, Amazon Bedrock, Google Gemini, even local models through Olama. You write your agent logic once and it works across all of them. You're not locked into one provider. Switch from OpenAI to Anthropic, and you change a configuration value, not your entire code base. The framework has 2 major components. Agents are the building blocks, individual reasoning units that can think and act. Workflows are the orchestration layer that ties multiple agents together. You can have one agent doing one job or a whole team working on a complex task. There's also something called declarative definitions. You define an agent's behavior in a YAML file. That means your agent configuration is version controllable. Put it in Git, review it in pull requests, deploy it through CI/CD pipelines. For enterprise teams, that's a huge advantage. But here's what I want you to understand. This framework isn't just for developers building complex systems. It's designed for enterprise scenarios. Security, compliance, observability, human-in-the-loop approvals, these are built in, not bolted on. And that's what makes it different from the experimental frameworks that came before. The building blocks: agents, tools, memory, workflows. Let's break it down into the 4 core concepts. Get these right, and you understand 90% of what this framework does. First up, agents. They're the fundamental unit. Each agent has a name, a set of instructions, and access to tools. It's a reasoning unit that can think and act. You tell it who it is, what it should do, and what resources it can use. Everything else flows from that. Next, tools. These are the hands of the agent. Functions, APIs, or external services the agent can call. Weather data, calendar access, database queries, file operations. The agent doesn't know how to do these things by itself. It needs tools to reach out into the world and take action. You can write simple functions yourself, or they can be MCP servers, model context protocol. That's a standard way to connect agents to external services. Think of it as a universal plug. If a service supports MCP, your agent can use it without custom integration code. Then there's memory. This is the brain's storage. 2 types exist. Session-level memory is short-term. It remembers what happened during a single conversation. Context providers are long-term. They remember preferences and facts across multiple conversations. Memory is what makes an agent feel intelligent. Without it, every interaction starts from scratch. You introduce yourself, and the next time you talk, it's forgotten. With memory, the agent knows who you are, what you've discussed, and what you care about. It's the difference between talking to a stranger and talking to a colleague who knows your work. Finally, workflows. This is the orchestration layer where you define multiple agents working together. Workflows can be sequential. Step A, then step B. They can be concurrent, multiple agents working in parallel on different parts of the same problem. Or they can be conditional. If this happens, go here. If that happens, go there. Workflows also support checkpointing. If something fails halfway through, the system can resume from where it left off. It doesn't start over. That's important for long-running tasks that might take hours or involve multiple steps. Human-in-the-loop patterns are built in too. Agents can pause and ask for approval before taking sensitive actions. If an agent is about to send an email or approve a payment, it can stop and wait for a human to say yes. That's essential for regulated industries. Here's a real-world example. Imagine a sales preparation agent. You have a meeting with a client tomorrow. You tell the agent, "Help me prepare." It checks your calendar to confirm the time. It pulls CRM data to see the client's history. It searches marketing materials for relevant case studies. It generates a briefing document and a PowerPoint presentation, all without you doing anything. That's not a chatbot. That's an agent. Why should you care? The practical value. So you understand what the framework is, but here's the thing. Why should you care if you're not a developer building AI systems? The answer is that this framework doesn't just live in a developer's terminal. It powers tools that everyday business users interact with. Agents built with the framework can be published directly to Microsoft Teams and Copilot Chat. That means your organization's agents live where you already work. You don't need a separate app to install, a new login to remember, or a learning curve. You just open Teams and the agent is there. For IT and business decision makers, this matters even more. The framework provides enterprise controls that actually matter. You get identity management through Entra ID, access control so agents only see what they're supposed to, audit trails so you know what every agent did and when, and data governance so sensitive information stays protected. And here's a problem you might not have thought about. Shadow AI is real. Employees are using unsanctioned AI tools every day, pasting company data into public chatbots, uploading sensitive documents to unknown servers, and hoping for the best. IT teams know this is happening, but they can't stop it by banning tools. People will find a way. This framework gives IT a way to offer approved, secure agents that still feel modern. Instead of telling employees, "Don't use AI," you can say, "Use these agents instead. They're safe, they're governed, and they work with your data. There's also the problem of agent sprawl, and it's already happening. Teams are creating agents faster than anyone can track. The framework gives you a single place to manage, monitor, and govern all of them. You can see which agents are being used, which ones are collecting dust, and which ones need attention. Cost visibility is another big one. You can see exactly how much each agent costs to run, which agents are expensive, which ones are efficient, and where to optimize. That's not something you get with a collection of random tools and scripts. The bottom line is this. This framework makes AI agents practical, safe, and manageable for real organizations. It's not just about building cool technology. It's about building something that works in a real business with real constraints. Security, compliance, budget, governance. If you're responsible for any of those things, this framework matters to you. How it fits into the bigger picture. So where does the agent framework actually fit? It's not a standalone product. It's one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Let's look at how everything connects. Start with Azure AI Foundry. Think of it this way. The agent framework is how you build your agents, and Foundry is where they live and run. It handles all the heavy lifting, infrastructure, scaling, monitoring, security. You build locally, you deploy to Foundry, and your agent runs in a production environment with enterprise controls. Simple. Now, if you're not a developer, you've got another option, Copilot Studio. This is the low-code path. You use a visual interface to define what your agent does, connect it to data sources, and publish it to teams. No code required. The agent framework is for developers who want full control. They complement each other. Deep customization? Use the framework. Need to move fast? Use Copilot Studio. Then there's Microsoft 365 Copilot, the user-facing side. Agents built with the framework can show up right inside Copilot, so users interact with them through a familiar interface, the same Copilot they already use for work. No new tool to learn, no new workflow to adopt. But here's where the real value shines, the intelligence layer. It has 3 parts. Work IQ connects to your personal data, email, calendar, chats. Foundry IQ connects to organizational knowledge, documents, policies, shared resources. And Fabric IQ connects to business data, sales numbers, customer records, operational metrics. Agents can pull from all 3. That's what makes them truly useful. They don't just answer general questions. They have context. They know who you are, what you're working on, and what data matters to your business. When an agent prepares a briefing document for a sales meeting, it's not guessing. It's pulling from your calendar, your CRM, your marketing materials, and your company's knowledge base, all in one request. And it all works with Microsoft's security model. Entra ID for identity, Intune for device management, Defender for threat protection. If your organization already uses these tools, the framework fits right in. No need to build a separate security layer. For organizations already using Microsoft 365, Azure, and Power Platform, this framework is the natural next step. You're not starting from scratch. You're extending what you already have. The long-term vision? Simple. Agents become as common as apps. Every business process gets an agent layer, not replacing people but helping them work faster, with better information and fewer repetitive tasks. This framework is how you build that layer. Getting started, your first step. Here's the good news. You don't need to be an AI expert to get started. There are 2 paths. The no-code path is Copilot Studio. Visual interface, drag, drop, configure, no code required. You can have something working in hours, not days. If your goal is to solve a specific business problem fast, this is your path. The code path is the agent framework itself. You install the packages for Python or Punch.net and you use the VS Code extension. And the extension is worth talking about because it includes AI-powered skills. You tell it what you want. Create a sales prep agent that checks my calendar and pulls CRM data, and it scaffolds the entire project for you. Code, configuration files, everything. It's not a blank page, it's a running start. The extension also includes something called the Agent Inspector. This is a visual tool that shows you what your agent is doing in real time, step by step. You can see it thinking. You can see which tools it's calling. You can see where it's getting stuck. It's like having a debugger that speaks plain English. If you're already using semantic kernel or autogen, there are migration assistants that analyze your existing code and generate a step-by-step migration plan. You don't have to start from scratch. The framework is open source. The GitHub repo is at github.com Microsoft Agent Framework. Samples, documentation, discussion forums, all there. The community is active. There are weekly office hours where you can talk to the engineering team directly. That's not something you get with most frameworks. The key message is this: start small. Build a single agent that does one useful thing. Maybe it checks your calendar. Maybe it summarizes your emails. Maybe it looks up customer information. See how it feels. Then scale up. The most important thing is to understand the concepts. And that's what this episode was about. Let me wrap it up by tying these pieces together. An agent isn't a chatbot. It's a system that thinks, decides, and acts on its own. The framework exists because building agents the old way meant juggling incompatible tools and frameworks that didn't talk to each other. That fragmentation made everything confusing. So Microsoft built one way to build, one way to deploy, and one way to manage. No more switching between frameworks or stitching together mismatched pieces. For beginners, here's the simple takeaway. AI agents aren't magic. They're structured systems that reason, use tools, and remember context. Microsoft gave you a complete framework to build them, and it's production ready right now. This isn't hype. Agents are becoming a normal part of how we work, just like apps and websites did years ago. The tools are here, the community is active, and your first agent is closer than you think. If you want to explore more, start with the GitHub repo and the VS Code extension. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and share this with someone starting their journey.